What if you had a user's manual for your own mind? A way to actually understand its code and maybe even rewrite it? Well, that's the powerful promise behind something called Neuro Linguistic Programming, or NLP. It's a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty controversial field, so let's dive in and unpack what it's all about.
And this brings us right to the big, bold question at the heart of NLP. It's not about changing the world out there, but about fundamentally transforming the world inside your own head. So how on earth does it claim we can do that? Okay, so here's the official definition from our source material. The two words you really want to lock onto here are structure and subjective experience. See, NLP isn't really therapy in the classic sense. It's more like a model for changing how we experience things from the inside out.
All right, so let's get into the foundational premise of NLP. It all kicks off with this one single core idea. Now, what's so interesting about this is the implication. It suggests our feelings and reactions, they aren't just random emotional weather. Nope, they're built on a framework. If you're afraid of something, that fear has a distinct structure. And if you can find that structure and change it, you can change the feeling itself. The key thing to get here is you're not changing the past event. You're changing your internal representation of it. Okay, so if our experience has a structure, how is it built? I mean, what are the actual building blocks? Well, NLP proposes that we build our inner world through our senses. The big three it really focuses on are visual, what we see out there and in our mind's eye, auditory, all the sounds around us, and importantly, our own internal dialogue, and kinesthetic, our physical feelings and our emotions. We all use all of them, but we tend to have a favorite system we rely on. And this just lays it out so simply, right? It's this automatic loop we're all running constantly. We sense something, we assign some meaning to it, and then we act based on that meaning. What NLP tries to do is step in at that last stage to make us conscious of the pattern itself so that we actually have the power to change it. So where did all these powerful ideas come from? Well, this is what's so cool. NLP wasn't invented in a lab somewhere. It was basically reverse engineered from genius. So back in the 1970s, the founders Richard Bandler and John Grinder had this revolutionary idea. They thought, instead of creating yet another theory about therapy, why not just study the people who are already getting these incredible, almost miraculous results? And they didn't just pick anyone. I mean, they studied absolute masters, all with totally different styles. Virginia Satir, a pioneer of family therapy, the legendary hypnotherapist Milton Erickson, and Fritz Perls, the guy who founded Gestalt therapy. And this, right here, this is the secret sauce. The genius of their approach was that they totally ignored the theories and just focused on what was observable. What patterns, what language, what questions did these masters use over and over to get results? And then they took those patterns and turned them into techniques anyone could learn. Okay, so NLP sounds incredibly powerful. And you know what? It absolutely can be. But, and this is a big but, our source material makes it very clear that it's not without its controversies and some pretty serious downsides. So let's look at both sides of the coin. On the one hand, you have this toolbox of really powerful, issue-focused techniques that are designed for rapid, short-term change. But on the other hand, there are major critiques. The biggest one is that it deliberately takes a behavior out of its personal context, kind of ignoring the deeper role of a person's personality. And because the techniques are so effective, there's a very real potential for misuse. Let's use a phobia as an example. NLP has some famously effective techniques for phobias. The approach is purely structural. You find the sensory pattern of the phobic response, the images, the sounds, the feelings, and you just scramble it. Fix the structure, fix the phobia. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, here's the fundamental problem our source points to. What if a snake phobia for one person is tied to a deep feeling of weakness, but for someone else, it's about suppressing their own vulnerability? The meaning behind it is completely different. By only treating the structure, NLP risks totally ignoring the why behind the problem. And that leads directly to NLP's mixed reputation, because its powerful persuasion techniques can be used for, well, opportunistic or even unscrupulous reasons. Think high-pressure sales. It's sometimes seen with a lot of suspicion. On top of that, you can get certified in NLP very quickly, often without the deep psychological context you'd get from a traditional therapist. So, after all that, how should we think about NLP? What's the big takeaway from all this? At the end of the day, it really comes down to this paradox. Its greatest strength, The fact that it's a collection of powerful, specific techniques is also its greatest weakness. It's a fantastic set of tools for changing specific behaviors, for sure, but it is not a comprehensive model for understanding a whole person.
And for this explainer, we want to give a huge credit to our source material, which comes from the amazing work of Thomas Condon at The Changeworks.
Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question to chew on. NLP gives us tools that can absolutely fix a behavior, no doubt about it. But is that the same thing as fixing a person? That's something we're thinking about.